Good morning. This is Natalie from Own My Health, and today I want to talk a lot about the concept of time. And time is something that's oftentimes very fleeting, and it's something that we can't physically grasp. It is a concept that we live in, breathe. It becomes part of our physical space reality. And we always realize that time just quickly escapes our life, especially as we get older. Now, I did want to draw your attention to a really important number. And that number of 525,600, guess what that number is? That number is actually the number of minutes in a year that we all have available to use. The other number that I wanted to bring to your attention is the number 37. Guess what that number is about? Well, that is actually the average age of any individual in their lifespan. So the average age, or the midpoint of your average age, or before you pass away, is 37 years old. So that was actually a bit of a surprise to me when I first saw that. Is really, I thought it was a bit older, maybe 40 or 45, we're all living longer. But the reality is that today, the midpoint of your life is 37 years old. So just pause for a second and think about that. If the midpoint in your life is 37, and we all have about 526,000 minutes a year, how do you feel about that time? How do you propose that you will want to use that time, realizing depending on what side of age 37 you are at? If you're younger, terrific. If you're older, it gives you even less years to think about achieving everything that you want and desire and dream about in your life. So how are you going to use those 525 minutes a year? It really makes things sound and feel a lot different when you start to think about that from those terms. Now, I also want us to talk about time from the perspective of the balance between time and money. Time and money, especially with the concept of how much time we have and the midpoint of all of our lives. Now, the thing that's interesting about time and money is we're always chasing after the dollar, oftentimes not realizing how we might be squandering the time that we have. Now, what's interesting about time and money is they're both resources. And they're actually similar in some ways, but they're also extremely different. So what's interesting about money is money can flow, and money is actually renewable. Based on some of the things that you could do, it is something that, if you happen to win a lottery or you happen to make a lot of money one year and somehow, spent it gambling or buying a bunch of clothes or giving it away, is you could end up losing it, but you can also find mechanisms to replenish it. So it's basically a renewable resource if you have the ability and the thought process and the skills and the desire to be able to make it. So it is something that is accessible to everybody. But what's interesting about time is it's probably the most democratically distributed resource that we have to everybody. So unlike money or anything else physical, and potentially even esoterically, time is the most democratically distributed. And what I mean by that is that all of us, it doesn't matter what nationality you are, what country you live in, how old you are, if what gender you are, if you live in a house or in a building, or if you live under a bridge, we all have the same amount of time. We all have the 525,000 minutes a year. Every one of us has that. We have been all given that God-given resource to use. Now, the thing about time, unlike money, is time is non-renewable. And that is, if we somehow end up, we can't actually build more time. But the other thing, unlike money, is we also we just can't generate more, especially if we squander it. And what I mean by squandering is wasting it. So how can you waste time? Well, we can think of lots of examples of time wasters. Surfing through social media, getting lost on a Facebook page and suddenly looking up and realizing you just lost an hour. Reading the news and just getting all in a kerfuffle and getting in a big distraught state of mind because we're just reveling in all of the negativity in the environment we're living in and not living in the now. We can squander our time by spending it with people that are not building ourselves up, or they're not building our esteem, or building our abilities or our positive self-talk, who might be damaging to ourselves, but just based on not wanting to offend anybody, as we end up spending time with these people or in these environments or these groups that are just not serving us. We could be squandering our time in jobs that we just hate, and that we're getting up in the morning and going to these places that we are just like tapping our fingers on the table waiting for it to be the end of the day so we can actually come back home. And so, wasting our time in these sorts of situations. Or we could be wasting our time trying to lose weight and get in a healthy state by, reading books and not actually doing any of it, or attending courses, or going to see a personal trainer and doing something for a little bit, and not continuing or sustaining it or maintaining it as a habit. So that's all examples of squandering time. So again, because time is a non-renewable source, we have to use it very, very diligently. So one of the things that I am very specific with my time is that I am extremely focused on what my goals are. And I have a whole tracking system that I use on a daily basis that actually categorizes all the key steps and actions that I need based on 3 or 4 core categorical goals in my life for that year. And I actually track it. I decide what it is that I'm going to be focusing my time on, and I track to see if I actually achieved it. Now, tracking systems and that level of transparency and clarity on what we need to be doing with our time is absolutely essential for us to feel directed, to get to where it is that we need to go, and also to feel that sense of achievement. I have oftentimes in my life been a real scarcity monger around time. I've really struggled with beating time and trying to get through things faster, the lineups at the shopping, at the store, pushing through things to make sure that I can be as efficient as I'd like, but realizing that, again, time is there. Now is the only time that exists, and it's not going to move faster or slower. It's just this thing. It's just democratically given to me. It's the amount of time that I have. I can't extend it. I can't warp it. I just have to live with what I have. So being very particular about where I exert my energy, my time, my thought processes, so that when I can focus, I will get an illusion that time will expand, that there is enough time to do everything that I need to do. And so by having this tracking system that I use, it really helps me to feel like I've achieved something. And that is a really important cap to have at the end of your day, a sense of achievement, because we can oftentimes go in this continuous flow of activity, never feeling like we've ever gotten anything done. There's always something more to add to the checklist, and it's never finished. It's never done. And so I really just want to urge you to think about what you're doing today. And if you were to categorize the top 2 to 3 goals and a couple of activities associated with those, what would that look like for you today? And at the end of the day, what is it that you can do to reflect back and to see what you have effectively accomplished? And once you realize that, how will you personally celebrate that success or those small accomplishments for the day? Be it something that you're doing for work or a project you're doing or something for school, or if it's something that you've contributed or done in a positive direction for your health or fitness, how will you celebrate that? So I invite you to think about time today and how you're going to use the 525,000 minutes this year, this non-renewable but outstanding resource that we've all been democratically given. How will you use that today? So looking forward to hearing your comments. If you want to add anything, I'd love to hear you in the comments below. If you like what you hear, please subscribe or like this. And wishing everybody a highly successful and productive day. You've got this.